I had the great pleasure to interview Brett Booth, one of the comic artists that I think has really made a mark on this industry for several decades now. He was associated with a lot of very dynamic characters in the 90s. He's one of the artists that has continued to maintain a regular, almost aggressively regular shipping schedule, along with people like Mark Bagley. Brett Booth has a very unique style, and he's top of mind right now due to Flash Forward and Bloodshot, and really kind of being one of the people that brought Wally West back from a dark place to where he was at the end of Flash Forward, which leaves people a lot of optimism, hope for DC. So this is an interesting interview. It's going to be in several parts, and just wanted to kind of let you hear from the man himself how he thinks about the industry, DC, comics, Flash, everything else. It's a fascinating look at art, if you've ever wondered. Can't wait for you to hear it. Well, cool. I have the great pleasure right now of talking with somebody that I've certainly idolized in the comic industry for a long time. Brett Booth, how are you tonight?
Pretty good, pretty good. How you doing?
I'm doing okay, hanging in there. It's an interesting time in the industry. Absolutely, a lot of things going on. I can only imagine from your end, what is it like being in the comic industry right
It's kind of nuts,
now?
especially with what's going on with DC. If you're working with DCA for any length of time, it's kind of all in flux right now, and you just have no idea what's going on. So I'm just kind of waiting for information.
hmm
Hoping to hear something this week. I talked to some people at the beginning of the week, and they said, "You might hear something later this week." I was like, "Okay." Hopefully, we'll see. I don't know what's going on. I mean, I've been there kind of mostly for like the last 10 years. So,
Yeah, no, I
uh,
mean you're an established person there, and you just finished. I mean, your story for Flash 750 was incredible. I thought it just was a perfect lead in for things, and Flash Forward was really well received, kind of across the board. I mean, you have worked for all the companies, but really people are seeing you as Mr. DC in a lot of ways. Certainly Flash
yeah,
too.
it's funny because I was never like a huge DC fan when I was younger. I was a Marvel guy. I mean, I was huge. X-Men was like my thing.
hmm
Uh, but I always loved the Flash. So he's like always been like my main DC guy.
It shows
And
in your work. I mean, so your Flash is just very special. I mean, it's a dynamic. I think in how you pop that character off the page. So, do you think because you love the character, does that just make it easier to draw, better to? I mean, you can
yeah,
bring more to it.
yeah. I was actually I was looking for a reference for something the other day, and I was just kind of going through the pages I have on my iPad, and I was like, man, there's this is something about the Flash pages that there's a little bit of extra love or something in there, and maybe I'm doing it subconsciously, but I just like it's just like working with the character so much. So
Yeah.
it's and then Scott did such a great job with the script, and I mean, at first I thought he was trying to kill me with the first few issues with all the characters, but then he like kind of got into the more emotional stuff, and I was actually surprised at how well like, that clicked with me, especially with the kids stuff because neither of us have kids.
hmm Yeah.
So, and then I actually talked to like, Dan DiDio about this, and he was like, "Man, all those pages came out great." He's like, they were like amazed at because we don't have kids and how much we were able to actually, emote with them. And I was like, "Oh, I just imagine them as puppies
Yeah.
because I love my dogs." So it's a similar kind of thing. So it worked. So
It felt like family. I mean, and that's something that it feels often underserved in comics. This you don't have to have kids. I think it can be your sense of family with siblings or parents or dogs or
yeah,
pets or
yeah.
whatever.
I mean, I think people have there's certain people who are really like, "Oh, well, you have to have kids to understand this." I don't think you have to have kids specifically. This is kind of like a human thing.
Yeah.
You just have to have some sort of some sort of ability to emote or read emotions to actually pull
Huh.
some of that stuff off. And that's basically what my job is. I'm like directing the script, so I have to be able to get the characters to do the right emotions. I mean, when I worked on the Titans book, I would actually like redraw stuff. I was like, oh, that's not how Garth is supposed to. That's not a pose that Garth would make because he's a little more stoic. So that's a more open pose, so that's Roy. So maybe I'll just change the character, just move the character over. Because when I was doing that, it's kind of funny. Vince Abnett really likes, he worked on the Guardians of the Galaxy books that they made movies off of, loves to have the characters make jokes and talk to each other. So there's that book was just I love drawing it, but it was just a brutal book to draw because I had to have like all the characters in like all the panels. Yeah. Because some people were always talking to each other, so I'm like drawing multiple characters all the time. So I was like 11 hours per page on that one.
Oh,
and that was a brutal run to do, and because they moved it, they like changed you did the Rebirth 0 issue, and then there was issue 1. I just finished drawing that, and then I got an email saying, Jeff didn't like this, or we're changing this, or and I have to redraw some pages. So I have to redraw some pages. Okay, 11 pages. So I had to draw like half the book, and then they bumped the schedule up by 2 weeks. Like, the Teen Titans book is coming out, and that one has to ship the 4th week. So we're bumping your book up 2 weeks. Like, you just made us draw 11 pages, and now you're bumping it up an additional 2 weeks. You just lost a month's worth of work or lead time on this project. It's like, do you want to do a fill-in for issue 3? I think, no, I don't want to do a fill-in for issue 3. I want to have like the first bit of it, the first trade. And then you can do like a film.
It's amazing to me. I've talked to other people, fans, when they have this perception of artists and how they work. And what you're describing, I've heard from many other artists kind of this, but there's this belief, I think, that comic artists, they kind of wake up and they go into their fancy studio that they've, this little palace they constructed for themselves. And then FedEx delivers them this crystal clean, little script. And there's a conference call with the editor to kind of go over the details. And then the artist maybe draws for 2 or 3 hours and then takes a walk in the park. And nothing about the experience is like that. How, give it to me straight. How is it to work on a book? What do you get? How does it come into you? What does that feel like for people who are polluted?
If you're lucky, it comes in early, and you can read it like the day before you start, or a couple days before you start. If you're not lucky, you get like a few pages here, a few pages there. I was actually really lucky with the Bloodshot book that I was doing at the same time as the Flash Forward thing. I was pretty much done ahead of time, so I was just basically could just draw that whenever I wanted to. And Scott was really good trying to get the scripts in for the Flash Forward, but they have them make changes. I mean, you turn in multiple drafts. The writers turn in multiple drafts of the script, and they have to do more. Make this change, make that change. Okay, well, Brett, here you're getting 10 pages now, and then you start drawing. Oh, don't draw that page, and you just finished it.
Oh man.
But it was fairly. I mean, at least at the beginning, it was fairly easy to deal with. Everything was pretty much on time, and it wasn't like, I mean, the schedules it was brutal enough because I was like drawing like 5 pages of Wally, and then like 2 pages of Bloodshot a week.
Oh yeah.
And occasionally I'd just put something in, and then something would come in late, and then at the end I was drawing like 10 pages a week. The last month. The last month I was still doing Bloodshot. Oh yeah, no, but I managed to hit a groove like with at the end of the Flash Forward 5. I hit a groove, and I was just like tearing through pages. It was just, and this not recommended, but because I was so used to drawing the characters, and luckily it was like on this other planet there wasn't a lot of backgrounds involved. So I could just kind of, draw some rocks, and that's really easy and fast to draw. So I could focus on the characters. Bloodshot wasn't like that when I was working on that, because that was the exact opposite. There's a lot of characters, a lot of backgrounds. So it was kind of like this game. So I was like, well, it got towards the end. I was like, man, I could actually finish the Wally book like a week early if I just blow through it and just go through it and just draw it. And then I'll have like 10 days to draw like the last 10 or 11 pages of Bloodshot. And I'm just gonna do that. It's holidays, no one's there, no one's anywhere. So turning work in, you're not gonna get paid. So it doesn't really matter if I'm turning in, 5 and 3 or 6 and 4 or whatever. So I just kind of blew through the Wally thing, turned it in a week early, and then but the Bloodshot, I actually managed to get that done because I was still in that I hit that groove. You hit one of those grooves. It's like when you play basketball and you're like making all the free throws and you're making every shot you make, you throw. You hit one of those grooves, and as I see people like, oh, well, what do? You ride that wave. You do not let up. As long as it takes you, you just keep going. And I blew through the Bloodshot stuff, and then I was supposed to be starting on the 750, Flash 750, and there was no script. So I had a week where I didn't have anything much to do, and lost the groove.
Oh.
So I was like trying to find the groove to get the Flash 750 because that needed to be done by the end of the month of January. So I was like, oh man, am I going to be able to pull this off? But I was like, okay, I do 6 pages a week of that. So I was like, okay, I'll try to get this done. But luckily there wasn't that many changes or anything on that. There's a couple little things, and there's actually some funny things that when I was doing the flash forward thing, they're like, there's all these flashbacks, and like they didn't tell me which flashbacks they wanted me to draw because there's like multiple versions of the DC universe. And so I was like, well, you know what? I have some ideas, so I'm going to do this, and I'm going to see what they say. And they didn't say anything. And that's like the original Wally flashbacks from like the 1959, 1960. I was pulling like the really old stuff, and they would actually, and even with the 750 thing, they're like, "Who's this character? Who's that character?" And I was like, "Oh, well, that's this character, and that's this character. Who are these people?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I was just pulling stuff from like all the knowledge that I had." And there's even more of that stuff in the Free Comic Book Day. It's just like I told you, a total like through DC history. I got to draw a whole bunch of characters that I never got to. Like I'm a huge Captain Atom fan, and I never actually got to draw him in the comics until I got to do some Flash 750. I was like, oh, I got to draw Captain Atom finally. I pitched several story ideas and nothing.
I want to ask you about that in a second, but I know a lot of people are excited about the Free Comic Book Day, but now it's delayed. We don't know when that is actually going to go anywhere. So
I don't either. I mean, I found out about it reading online, so I have no idea what's going on with any of that stuff. It's kind of crappy because I was like, oh man, I was just really happy to see all the cool stuff that we managed to shove in there. I mean, there's like a double page spread that literally took me like 4 days to draw. Like the most complicated one I've ever done. I was so tired after I finished. Like it was the second to last pages I did because the last page got I can't say what it is, but it's timing with something coming up.
Something big and important.
All of the history that I managed to cram into this double page spread because they're like, oh, they gave me like 7 panels to draw, and I think I put in like 20 or something. Because they're basically just letting me do what I wanted to do. So I was like, oh, I love it when they let me do that stuff. That's fun. Just let me off my chain, and I'll just have fun doing whatever I want to do.
Well, I mean, you can carry it. I think you mentioned it earlier, and it's another one of those perceptions people have. I was talking to another retailer a couple days ago, and they were saying, well, they didn't really understand why there were so many mistakes that would show up, because they're like, well, all these artists and writers, they all have access to the resource libraries, right? And I'm like, the what? And it's like, well, back in the headquarters, there's this giant online repository like the Harry Potter.
Yeah, no.
You can just pull anything you want at any point,
It so much depends on like the editors knowing what it is. We had the Retaliators, and then like the N-Men or something, the fake X-Men. There's this Nth-Men guys, and they sent me reference, and it's like the worst reference I was like, there's nothing here. I can barely draw these characters. So I was like, well, let me Google search this stuff, see if I can find something. And there's nothing on Google. Yeah, there's like 3 pictures. They sent me a splash page, which is mostly like a big headshot in the way, and then like a couple characters who are green, and I can't tell what's going on. And so I'm just like, and then Scott's like, oh, just make up some other characters too if you want. And so I was like, oh, okay. Well, I made up like a Black Widow. No, it was the Daredevil character is the one I made up. The Daredevil guy, like Stuntman, that's his name.
Yeah, there's an amazing gap. If you're searching online, and it feels like a lot of people are now dependent and relying on Google and these other sites. And there's this huge gap of the, really part of the 80s through the 90s. I mean, I think both of us worked in a comic shop in the 90s. And so we had access to all that stuff. Every now and then I think, oh, I remember some panel. I wish I could find it. And unless I go to find my own personal copy, there's no record of things anywhere. It's very hard to find it.
Yeah, because you have to like, oh man, what was that in? What was the name? What issue was that from? And you just the editors and assistant editors to find this stuff. And if they don't know what it is, they don't know what to look for. I mean, you have to know what to look for to actually find stuff. So if you don't know some of these things, so they send me character, like I did, there's a picture of like the Wildstorm thing in Flash 750, and I do like Union in the background. And they're like, "Who's this guy?" And I was like, "Union." And I sent a picture that I did, and I was like, "Oh, and I think I did Jim's costume instead of this other costume." I was like, "But that's Jim's costume." I was like, "Come on, guys." I was like, "Who else is this?" So, well, that's the Kilgore from the Flash. My first Flash book that I ever read was Flash 3, Wally's Flash, that had the Kilgore on it. Kilgore, I have no idea how to pronounce that, even though I didn't talk to Brian Augusta. But that was like my first Flash stuff, so I like always throw that in there if I can. And Scott actually knows this, so that when we did the Flash Speed Buggy thing, he made him the bad guy at the beginning of the story, so I could draw him.
You have a good relationship with Scott. I mean, you've done a lot of projects together over time.
Yeah, and we hated each other for a while.
Oh, really?
One of those weird things. Yeah, Teen Titans 1. I talked to him beforehand. We had talked to him on the phone a couple times. Scott likes to do like weird, bold stuff. He loves to kind of break the mold. That's like kind of his big thing. And he sent me. I get the script. That was the second script. The first script was a continuation of Teen Titans 100. It'd be like 101. Had the original that Teen Titans cast and. Scott, it was a really great script. I really liked it. I was really looking forward to it. And I was just starting to lay out page 1 when I get an email from Bobby Chase saying, "Hey, don't draw this. We're rethinking this."
Oh, no.
Okay. All right. But so we get the next script in there, and there's a page of Tim Drake like looking at like these computer screens of like a bunch of like metahuman teens. And so I do what I always do, and I go completely overboard. Sure. And I get a nasty email back from Scott. "You're only supposed to draw this and this."
Oh.
And I was like, "Dude," I was like, "What the hell?" And it just like deteriorated from there. And we didn't talk to each other till like issue 4 or 5 again. I get a script and I got issue 4 script, and I was like, "Oh my God, they're not in costume, they're not fighting, they're just standing on talking in a freaking hamburger shop." I said, "Come on, you guys got to give me something." And I basically rewrote the plot and sent it back into Bob. I said, "Can we do something more like this?" And she gave that to Scott, and Scott riffed off that.
Oh, good.
And then now Scott and I, he'll ask me questions, and we'll just kind of riff back off of each other a lot because he doesn't know a lot about the Flash. At least he didn't. He doesn't know way more now. So he'd ask me like speed forward questions or this question: "Can we do this? Can you do that? Is this possible? What about this?" So,
I mean, that sounds like a good team.
Yeah. I mean, Scott and I have, I think, worked out a lot of. I know how to work on the scripts because he kind of, it's kind of a free form kind of script, and he'll like if you don't know how to work on it right, he'll mention something and it seems like it comes out of left field. Well, what you have to do is put it in earlier, like something about it earlier in like a panel or two before, so you see something happening. So it's not like completely out of left field. It's just something I just picked working with him. So I was like, "Oh, you want this? Okay, so I have to do this on this panel, like 2 panels before. I have to make sure I have this character set up, so that when he shows up in panel 4, it's not completely just out of the blue." But it's just so because Scott writes pretty loose and pretty fast.
It seems to me.
He actually gave me, it's like 4 pages in issue 2. He's like, "Hey, but here's 4 pages. Just have a big fight scene."
Okay, that's
here's
nice.
The end. Here's the end. Here's the end right over here. So I had a blast.
It plays to your strength, though. I mean, you like these big action scenes. You draw them really, really well. So, I mean, I'm always surprised. I hear from other writers things like, "Oh, these big action scenes are painful to draw," and it's just like I have to really mentally gear up. You seem like the exact opposite. You want some really good, exciting pages.
I love the action. Oh, I love the action. Yeah, that's like, so it's like, oh, what cool thing can they do now? How do I make this even cooler? How do I punch up the action?
Which is what people want.
The thing on talking stuff is I agree. I mean, that's what I loved when I was a kid. When I first reading comics and stuff, till I was an adult. I love the big action stuff. I think the cool character stuff is awesome too. But I want, I just want this, like, crave this, like, stuff that you just can't see. I want to see these characters being superheroes.
Sure. I mean, it feels like there's room for everything. I think one of the things that bothers me about the comic industry today, or maybe it's the way people perceive it, not necessarily the industry, is there is enough room now for all the books. You can have horror, you can have drama, you can have action. There's room for everyone.
Oh yeah, and I think that's great. I think
yeah,
you can get what you want. I mean, that's the cool thing. It's like, well, you want to read this? Okay, cool. Who's drawing it? Oh, I love that. That looks awesome. You know,
it's
great.
all right there. It's the flaw I think people get into at times is that they're like, well, let's make this superhero book something it's not. And in reality, there's enough room for all the writers, all the artists, and the fans to go wherever they want to go. You don't have to make a book something it should naturally be. Like, don't make the Flash a coffee shop psychological drama about relationships. I mean, for every page, every issue, there's plenty of comics that can do that well.
It's fine to do some of that.
Sure.
But the whole thing, I mean, I did have some problems on the Flash. When I first started, editor was like, hey, what can we do to make this, they really wanted me to draw that. And so I was like, okay, it's Barry, but, I'll still do it because I love the Flash. And I think just make sure there's like action. I think half the book should have some sort of action. It doesn't necessarily mean to be fighting all the time. He's running around doing weird things or whatever. He used the Flash. If you read all the old stuff, I mean, he'll have some sort of, something with Iris for like 2 or 3 pages, and then like discover some sort of weird thing in the lab, and then zoom, he's off to the future to fight, the tiny people who lived in the giant pink horses.
Hey, make sure you tune in for the next interview. We have several here of this very long conversation that I was lucky enough to have with Brett Booth. So tune in to the next part. Should be able to link here at the end of this video, but take a listen and hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Comment, certainly ask questions. Brett Booth is available at Demon Puppy on Twitter, and he's pretty active there, so you can definitely reach out to him there. And I hope you do.